Chapter 1. Aishi wakes in a thick bag of white translucent plastic stuffed into a garbage bag hothouse from hell. Her body rests on a table, her spine pressed against unforgiving metal. Hovering above her nightmarishly cocooned body is a bright white light, sous viding her as she struggles to breathe. The bag allows her enough room to shift, but not enough to stretch her limbs out. Her arms are pressed tightly against her sides and her legs are squeezed shut. Sweat waterfalls off her, covering her in a slippery film and flooding the bag with the distant threat that she might drown in her own fear. She whimpers, wishing she could feel her lungs inflate, but the air is too hot and the space too claustrophobic, so she just prays she is breathing even if she can't feel the vital, cooling reassurance of it. Tears drip down her face and blend in with her perspiration. Nearby, the uniformed chime of a bell rings endlessly. A door opens and footsteps approach. Through the dusty film of plastic against the bright, sterile light, she can see the silhouette of a head peering down at her. The head's shadow swells as it draws near, revealing its deformed outline, an extra curve protruding from either side of its face. It pulls away, then draws near again. Then it becomes still. It lifts something in its hand, a black rectangle. A box. It waits a few moments, inching the object closer and closer to her encased body, before placing it down on the metal table. The sound of its placement issues a sharp metallic clang. The figure breathes heavily, making her hyper-conscious of her, depleting air. Finally, it asks, "Are you depressed?" It's a man, but somehow she knew that already. Her lips part, tacky saliva attempting to keep them glued shut. She's been through this before, she just can't remember when. "Yes," she rasps. "Can you hear the bell chime?" Her attention redirects momentarily. "Yes." Pain erupts at her side, a pressure point the man finds and leverages. She inhales sharply and bites down on her tongue. It would hurt more to use the dry walls of her throat to scream. The pressure lessens. "Can you hear the bell chime?" "Yes," she whimpers. He takes the object off the table and places it atop her chest. She winces, knowing what comes next without remembering how she knows. She doesn't have time to ruminate on it. There's a click. Pain erupts through her like roots plunging into her core and spreading throughout, their growth forcing ribs and bones to shift aside and make room. She screams through clenched teeth. The sound burns skid marks into her throat. Her body convulses uncontrollably from the agony. The bag she's stuffed in keeps her in place. On the table, another click and the roots retreat. She gasps for untortured air. "Can you hear the bell chime?" "Yes!" She howls against his chillingly calm voice. "Please, please, stop." It's so hard to speak. 2 clicks in quick succession. Click, click. And this time her ribs threaten to break. She cries out louder, a high-pitched scream muffling out the sounds around her. "Can you hear the bell chime?" "Yeah." She tries to speak, but the breath is lost from her lungs. 2 balloons wheezing out air until there's nothing left, until they're useless. She's rendered mute, her quiet body bearing unbearable amounts of pain. The roots burrow deeper into her, sprouting new vines and thorns. She tries to hold on to consciousness, her teeth threatening to shatter from the pressure. From within, she thinks she can hear her ribs crack. Her skin is no longer an organ, but a fountain. Sweat explodes from her pores, drenching her in her own heat. The perspiration tries to cool her, but instead wraps a water-laced string around her neck and tightens the knot. The backs of her eyes burn and her chest seizes up, clamping down around her heart. The roots spread further and deeper and further. "Can you hear the bell chime?" She wakes, gasping for air, feeling like a rock has been pressed on her chest while she lay unconscious. For a moment, her body is stiff, but her lungs are on high alert, pumping like pistons to circulate much-needed oxygen through her body. She needs to break free from this plastic bag, squirm out from under it. But it's so deceptively soft and, "Hey! Hey! 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 Are you okay?" A hand touches her shoulder and she jerks away. Her limbs are free and she thinks she can knock someone out if given a chance, escape from her grave. She turns to the figure lying next to her, Horror fills her, and she's about to scream before her vision adjusts, before reality crashes in. Worried, blue eyes stare at her through the dim dark. "Are you okay?" he asks again. She exhales, willing her muscles to relax, and shuts her eyes. "Yes," she responds. Her boyfriend examines her, then holds out his arms. The distance between them suddenly seems so far. She worms across the bed into his embrace, nuzzling her body against his broad chest. He feels warm, yet her body shivers, releasing the excess adrenaline that had been channeling through her in her sleep. "Bad dream?" he asks. It takes her a moment to reply, to have to think about what it was and categorize it. "Yeah. That's the third one this week. I know, it must be work stress or… I don't know." They both sigh in unison and stare at the ceiling, trying to puzzle out an answer. She can't handle the strained silence, the empty air caused by her outburst. "Hey, Dexter," she asks. "Yes? Can we not go back to sleep?" He looks down at her and searches her eyes before smiling. His thick arms tighten, and he kisses the top of her. "Of course." They are up and in the kitchen cooking breakfast in their Sunday morning PJs. Music blasts as they dance around like a perfect unit, hands reaching out to feel each other whenever they can. A couple so in tune, they know when and where to step to keep in rhythm. Pancakes are flipping and eggs are frying. The air smells like sweet maple syrup and the kitchen window is wide open, sending in waves of fresh Manhattan wind. The perfect morning. "Shit! We don't have any more bacon," Dexter whines. Half of his toned body is shoved in the fridge. She giggles at the sight of this colossal man forcing himself into a small box and pats him on the back. "I'll go run downstairs and get some." He shuts the fridge door and looks at her with a furrowed brow. "Are you sure? I don't need bacon." "Yes, you do," she thinks with a smirk. "It's no problem. I'll be right back." She grabs a jacket, slides into slippers, and heads out the apartment door. Dexter smacks his lips behind her, and she vibrates with the feeling of love. The door shuts, leaving her alone in the stairwell. She skips down the stairs, humming to herself as she recalls the aisle where the bacon is located in the grocery store across the street. Enter, take a right, go down aisle 8, which then turns into aisle 11. Head to the back where the refrigeration is, and… She stops dead in her tracks at the bottom of the stairs, just before the main exit. The first floor is empty except for her and something else. Something that shouldn't exist. On the door's window is a poster, yellowed with dirt and age. Printed on that poster is a photograph, and in that photograph is a face so familiar, one she sees every morning when she wakes up and looks in the mirror. It's her. Her mind grows dizzy with the unreality of it. Her knees wobble as though the floor beneath her turned to pudding. She leans on the railing to stay upright. When the world feels once again solid, she takes a step toward the door and peels the poster off the glass. The thing comes off with a slight tick of the tape releasing its grip from the building. Her fingertips tremble around the page. It speaks to her in reverberations, like it's whispering sweet secrets. She has never seen this image of herself before, this monstrous expression, so hungry and evil. Those printed eyes look directly at her with demonic thirst, that printed mouth twisted into a smile made of barbed wire. She looks crazy, insane, like she has the intention of harming the photographer, like once the camera is down, she'll unlatch her jaw. She'll eat them whole, then lick her lips clean after the meal. But this can't be her. She isn't a psychopath. She would never pose for the camera like this. She doesn't even think her facial muscles could contort in that way, and if she did, her photographer would tell her to cool it, would tell her that books don't sell when the author looks deranged. Her fingers press harder into the poster, crinkling and beginning to tear. Her cheeks turn red. Underneath the photograph, the text reads, "Missing. Have you seen this girl?